All right, welcome everyone. As always, this is your pal, Greg Sablon on the Grindstone, also known as a Painter Servant. Scan that QR code on the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll get a chance to find out all about me and the team. Of course, we need to talk a little bit about Sublime MTG Alters and the usual stuff. The Commander format panel, I used to be on that, so if you want to read up on the article, which I was contributing to the Commander format, please go ahead and click that tab. And then following that, of course, you are watching on Twitch. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to look at my Commander decks, also feel free to take a look at that. That is available at the QR code as well. I have somewhere in the ballpark of 60 plus decks, and we're going to feature one of them today, and it's linked in with our altar that we're going to do a highlight on. And then before we get into Sublime MTG Alters and the Alliance of Military Magic players on the next scene, don't forget to use my affiliate link, which will be available on the chat, where you could purchase singles on TCG Player. Welcome. All right, as promised, we wanted to talk about the Sublime MTG Alters and the Alliance of Military Magic players. As always, there are QR codes on the screen. Scan those at your leisure and convenience. Michiko and Kumiko do some excellent work doing hand-painted altars, as you can see there. Michiko, my wife, and her sister, Kumiko, they specialize in anime-style artworks and highly detailed pieces. So if you want to commission us in the future, please feel free to do so. Shoot us a PM, and we'll try to get you into our commission queue, which we are happily opening back up in March. If you like what you see on the page or on the stream, then you could tell that there's a lot of dedicated handiwork involved and a lot of detail and care with every piece that they do. So we're definitely going to do that, highlighting one altar that Michiko recently completed. And then I'm also going to highlight another altar that Kumiko also recently completed. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the other community that I support is the military magic community. So there's a lot of us that play magic all over the world. And it doesn't really matter if you're active duty, reserve, National Guard, or are retired, or just support the military in general. You can always reach out to us, scan that QR code, and reach out to some of the admins on Facebook or join the Discord, where we try to line up games with fellow like-minded individuals. So hit that up and engage. Again, thanks for stopping by. Now let's get into the meat of the stream today. All right. So if you stuck here that long, again, really appreciate you stopping by. We are going to do a number of things today. I think 4 were listed on our Facebook page. First, we're going to highlight both altars. Well, first and secondly, we're going to highlight both altars recently completed. I have on hand one of the altars for a client that I'm about to ship tomorrow, and that's going to be the Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis altar. And then secondly, we're going to go ahead and highlight the Yoruichi altar done by Kumiko, which is done on the card Jaya Ballard, Task Mage. And then third, we're going to talk about my Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis deck, and we're going to go through the deck tech for that. It's going to be kind of cool. And I want to keep that in theme because of the altar that I'm going to highlight as the first part of the stream. And then following that deck tech and explanation of the deck, I'm going to go ahead and just do some play testing so you can see what I do whenever I can't make it out to the LGS, or I don't quite have the motivation to just play on tabletop simulator, or I guess you could say Cockatrice, if people still play that nowadays. I think people do. Both great platforms. I think I might try out the tabletop simulator in the future, but for now we're just going to do the playtesting that I do, which are between the decks that I have on Moxfield. Okay, so enough about that. So let's get into. Actually, I think we'll start with the Yoruichi altar, not the Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis altar. So I don't have the card on hand because the card is on its way to the client, and that was shipped from Japan from my sister-in-law, Kumiko. And oh yeah, I guess I should pop this up really quick. Again, if you're interested in any of the altars that we do, feel free to scan that QR code. We are on all different kinds of social media. Check that out, and you'll see the amazing work that our team does. All right. So let's talk about the Yoruichi altar. So if you've been following our page, you've probably seen this recently done. I guess the big question out there is how many fans, hey, what's going on? Hats300. I've been following the Facebook page for a bit, first time catching a stream. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, no, it's really cool that you did. So I'm looking at the chat here, and yeah, if you've been following the page, that's really cool of you. Of course, we've been doing altars for probably just shy of 10 years now. So hopefully you've been following that along and seen some of the really great work that Michiko and Kumiko have done. What's your favorite altar? Just throwing it out there. When did you start becoming a fan? And what altar drew you into the page? I don't know. I'll let you answer that at your next convenience while I talk about this. So Jaya Ballard is a red card, a colorless and 2 red, and it has some really cool abilities. I remember playing this card actually when I used to run Legacy Painter Servant, which is part of my namesake tag online here. And holy cow, Legacy Painter Servant, you got Painter Servant, you got Blood Moon, you got Magus the Moon, and then if you splashed white, you're running probably Ethersworn Canonist and Line Tutor. Just that way you can find your Painter Servant or your Grindstone, and then you just mill out your opponents. But Jaya Ballard, I think, was a sideboard card that you play in that deck, because most of the time when you're playing Painter Servant, you're naming blue. So any number of ways you could disrupt your legacy opponents. It could be through red elemental blasts, pyroblasts, and of course the blood moon effects. But if you play Jaya Ballard, it's basically your pyroblast on a stick, or it's your lightning bolt on a stick. Oh, Hats300. So you're a big Tifa fan, and I think, yeah, no, we did that Rolly Tutor not too long ago. You're right. I think it was right before Christmas time, and we posted that for sale. So yeah, no, we really like to do Tifa altars. I mean, Tifa is sexy as hell, right? So what more, I think, for our fans than to enjoy some of the anime style altars that we do, and Tifa is definitely right there at the top in terms of the sexiness and things that we try to achieve with the altars. There's some really awesome stuff that the gals have done, and with Jaya Ballard here, the character that was selected for the client was Yoruichi from Bleach. And to be quite honest, Bleach, holy hell. It's a long series, and I probably was only able to finish about 400 episodes of the series. Actually, no, was it 400? No, it's more like 100, sorry. I'm thinking of One Piece, which gets you in the thousands. But anyway, Yoruichi, she's this cat ninja character. I think she's awesome. Very sexy, of course. And if I'm not mistaken, this particular image that was selected by the client, actually no, there was a different reference that was used. But I think this is a specific form that Yoruichi takes on when she becomes a little bit more powerful, and this might be in the second part of the Bleach series. Anyway, I think the client really enjoyed what was how Kumiko executed this altar, and this is on its way. If it has not already made it to the client, it's inbound. It was shipped from Japan, right outside Tokyo, where my sister-in-law lives. And I think the client's going to be happy. It's going to be put into a magnetic card holder, just like we normally do with all our altars, at least more recently. And it's going to helm a pretty sweet deck. I think it's probably part of his, I think it is his commander, or one of his commanders at least. So I will say, a lot of folks ask us, hey, is that a real card? Hell yeah, it's a real card. All the altars we do, they are hand painted in acrylics. I forget what paints the gals use, but they pretty much stayed pretty uniform over the years. After I would say, I think it's golden, fluid, or acrylics, and maybe one other type. Dang, I forget. I should look at their equipment when they paint. But yeah, people ask, hey, is that a real card? Or hey, is that printed? No, they're well, first, yeah, like I said, they're real cards. Secondly, they're not printed, they're hand painted. What we try to do is achieve the likeness of the reference provided and try to be fairly exact. We match the color palette to exactly what is given. Sometimes you might deviate depending on what the client wants. So I think one of the original photos of this, the other variant, is a manga style black and white. So that was between this and the color version. The client decided that it was better to have a color version, and this is what you get. And I guess lastly, I'd like to mention, with regards to our altars, everything is highly detailed works. So you'll see very thinly painted lines, very thinly painted colors. They are not thick at all. The card, when it arrives in the mail, it fits very well into a perfect fit, which then fits very well into a regular sleeve, and then you can put it in a top loader or keep it in the magnetic card holder that we supply. And I think ultimately the clients are happy with their products that they commission us on. So if you like our work, let us know. Again, Hats 300, appreciate you stopping by and watching the stream. Let us know what piques your interest, and then if you're interested in commissioning us, definitely reach out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close out on those images so we could do a handheld altar, and then we just talk about all the good stuff about, of course, this is Kumiko's altar here, but now we're going to talk about Michiko's altar, which is a foil altar, which is something that we're also really pretty damn good at. All right, so that was the Yoruichi altar by Kumiko. Now let's talk about the Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis altar. And this is done using a reference. I think the artist, if I'm not mistaken, the original artist for this was a gentleman named Tetsuya Nomura. And that reference that was supplied to us, we loved it. We thought it was awesome. And Michiko did a really great job of basically replicating that particular reference onto this card. So I want to point out in this altar that the only copy of Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis is the Commander, I think it's Commander 17. And yeah, it's in foil. So when clients ask us to paint on foils, you know, we have to first understand if it's going to be on a level of difficulty that we're willing to work on. And what I mean to say is it's not just about the reference, it's about the foil itself. So sometimes there are sets out there that when their cards are in foil, it is very difficult to work with. You can't expose the foil. Sometimes the card, even if through the foil, it turns white. And that's not really the case for this, but well, what I mean to say is when you expose the foil using things like acetone or alcohol, you know, a variant of alcohol, acetone, for example, when you start kind of rubbing it down to expose the foil, it could actually turn the card white, which is crazy. Anyway, the level of difficulty I think for Commander 17 is somewhere in the ballpark of medium to hard. And so what we caution clients is, hey, the money that you're paying is going to be into a high quality product of hand painted work. And sometimes with the foils, it's going to command an additional premium because it's very difficult to work with. Also, if you're painting on foils all the time, it turns out the glare and all that with regards to the lighting that shines on this thing could really fuck up your eyes. So there's a lot that actually goes into the cards. There's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of very close inspection, you know, visually through sometimes not a microscope, but a magnifying glass, you know, to look at the exact details. And then when you're doing it on a foil, you have to decide, or at least our Michiko, when she does it on a foil, she has to decide what she wants to accentuate in terms of what is left of the foil. Now you notice in the background it's a plain white. Now I mentioned this in previous streams, but plain white backgrounds are actually very, very hard to do because they're never fully plain white in the beginning. You have to do quite a number of passes on the card so that it actually has a very nice color palette of white. And it sounds kind of weird, but you know, let's say you were trying to paint on a card that was black and you applied white to it. Let's say you don't even prime it. You just, like, usually the way we do it is we prime with a gray. But if you try to paint white onto a card without priming it properly, you're going to see all of the different original colors of the card itself, especially if it's not foil. Like when we do foil, we have to expose the foil in the spots that are ideal to accentuate. So anyway, enough about why it's difficult to paint white. It just is, just accept it. That's just how it works. Now, when if you look closely at this, you notice that as I tilt it at different angles, there are different parts of the card that have maintained the foil nature of it. And you can see that in Red 13's tail. You could see that in his bracelets and anklets. And also, you know, there's the different gold pieces on his body, like the earring. And then I think if you tilt it just a little bit, you might even also see, you know, the red parts that are shiny, and those are the tattoos on Red 13's skin. And then also, if you look very closely, there is foil that is kept in the eyeballs or the one eyeball of Red 13 here. And then for Cait Sith sitting on top of Red 13, right? Because these are two characters from the Final Fantasy VII video game, which, by the way, neat little tidbit. My wife and I, we have always been fans of the series, and that's actually one of the reasons of how we met a long time ago, some 20 plus years ago. And we loved the game. It was awesome. I was super ecstatic about the Final Fantasy set that came out for Magic, and I just loved everything about that. But Cait Sith has a crown on his head, so that's gold. Naturally, that needed to be maintained for foil. And then looks like my wife also had the little tail tuft for Cait Sith, also in foil, as you can see there. I think this card is amazing. I think the altar that was done was amazing. What do you all think? Did Michiko achieve the effect of the foil the best way she could? Let me know in the comments. I think it's a great altar, and the client is going to be super happy because I'm going to push it out in the mail tomorrow. And in order to do that, we have to properly secure this thing, and of course we have to throw it in a perfect fit. So I'm going to do that right now. And then to keep it additionally protected during shipment, we're going to throw it into a magnetic card holder. And I love these freaking card holders. They're awesome. Because you can own an altar, but what you need to do is properly protect it. Yeah, I just noticed your note there, Hats 300. I think it's cool as hell. Oh, and by the way, thanks for sticking around and watching through my explanation of that. The foiling, you got to figure out what it is that makes it work, right? And I think that's what a lot of our clients really like, is that we do really well with making sure we capture the foil nature of a card, and we retain, essentially, I think the original intent of how this could properly be displayed by doing so. So we're going to throw this in the magnetic card holder, and yeah, we're going to get this out in the mail tomorrow. Let's make sure that's secured properly. I really like these magnetic card holders. They're awesome. And yep, that's ready to go. Secured. Tuck it in its little plastic sleeve. And, we have clients from all over the world. This particular client, I'm not going to say where he's from, but we service everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. We will get you the card as long as you pay the appropriate shipping cost for it to get to you. So, we shipped to Europe, we shipped to Australia, we've shipped to South America, of course in the United States, several other places in Asia. It doesn't really matter, Philippines, obviously Japan, even Korea, etc., etc. If you have an address and you have the time and patience and money to get one of our altars, you will not be disappointed when it comes in the mail. So there's that. And yeah, we're done with that portion of the stream. Now, if you're sticking around a little bit longer, what I did intend on is going to the third and fourth parts of the stream, where we talk about my deck tag for Kynaios and Tiro Meletis. I do have that deck. Actually, when I think about it, this is probably one of the first few decks where it's 4 colors, where you could build into a good commander without needing to play partners. And this came out, I think, in it was 2017 or 2016. I forget exactly when. But it was the first time you could play 4 colors and have a 4-color commander without choosing one of the Nephilim, right? So I think as commander kind of proceeded the way it did beyond 2011, and folks wanting to build different commanders, and then they couldn't get a 4-color commander, you're pretty much forced into playing Nephilim. But when this set came out, or this commander product came out, obviously it was one of the natural choices if you weren't going to go with partners. All right, cool. So I'm not going to talk about the cards here just yet. I want to show the actual deck list. So as I mentioned, scan that QR code on the screen. If you want to look at the commander decks that I have, you'll find it there on Moxfield. And I'm going to go ahead and post the deck list momentarily. But let's transition very quickly to the deck list itself. All right. So, as I mentioned, we're looking at Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis. Yeah, hit that follow button, hit that like button, whatever, or just check my decks out at I'm the Painter Servant, also annotated there. And the commander is Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis. So the way I built this commander is it's not exactly your run-of-the-mill group hug deck, because I think a lot of people, when they do Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis, they end up building it as purely group hug with a lot of crazy amount of draw, that supports all players. What I've basically done with my Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis deck is, there's draw involved, right? But usually what I try to do is copy stuff. Let's look at what the card actually does. So at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Each player may put a land card from his or her hand onto the battlefield. Then each opponent who didn't draws a card. So this, it looks like it helps out everyone, but most of the time it helps you more, because you if you decide to draw a card, right? Well, actually, no, you will draw a card. So at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. So that's a must. Each player who may put each player may put a land card from his or her hand onto the battlefield. Then each opponent who didn't draws a card. So what you can get out of this is not only do you draw a card, but you could also just put a land card from your hand. It doesn't just apply to your opponents. Now, but then the opponents, if they don't put a land card in their from their hand into the battlefield, then they end up drawing a card. So it seems group hug, and ideally that's what a lot of players do with it is they make a group hug. But I do it a group hug with a twist of whatever it is that you put out, I'm probably going to copy it, or I have different effects in the deck that allow me to copy other things. And there's some classic combos like Splinter Twin in here, where you're copying Bounding Krasus, or you're copying what's the other card that's pretty solid? Deceiver Exarch. So if you ever played Modern and you at a point in time played Splinter Twin, you probably played Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin, which are shown here. So that let's say you play Deceiver Exarch because of that flash at the end of your opponent's turn on turn 3. Then on turn 4 you play Splinter Twin. So then essentially what that does is you'll be able to tap your Deceiver Exarch to create another copy of the Deceiver Exarch, which then untaps a permanent you control. You just untap itself, so that it can then create an additional copy of Deceiver Exarch, and you basically do that a million times, and you get a million copies. No big deal. Bounding Krasus kind of does the same exact thing, where you can flash it in and then copy it, and then essentially keep doing it again for as many times that you want to. Now, of course, you can't also have played Modern during that time frame without remembering that there were another great deck at the time was Kiki-Jiki, Court of Calling type deck, where you would also play Restoration Angels and then basically win the game. So you'd have a Kiki-Jiki that you could probably Court of Calling into. Court of Calling says convoke X and 3 green. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it into play. So you could Court of Calling a Kiki-Jiki, or you could Court of Calling a Restoration Angel. However way it works, you'll probably have some pretty good amounts of mana by that time and some control pieces. Also, you're probably playing Thragtusk, right? So any number of ways you could get cards out or find those cards, search your library for those creature cards, put it into play. That's what you want to do. And then we can't also forget about another infinite combo where you have Felidar Guardian, which says when it enters the battlefield, you may exile another target permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. That, of course, was combined with our Planeswalker, Saheeli Rai. So you might be wondering, like, okay, is this just a combo deck? Bottom line, it is. You're copying a lot of stuff through other cards like Clever Impersonator or Dax Duplicate or Phyrexian Metamorph, etc., etc. So when your opponents have pretty decent battlefields because of the amounts of draw they can get or lands that they put into play, you get to copy them. But then if you don't quite have really great targets, then you have to search your library for those infinite combo type cards. There's some other fun stuff that happens in here. So there's an enchantment called Intruder Alarm, which essentially is kind of like your version of Deceiver Exarch and Bounding Krasis, where you can tap a creature, create another creature through like Kiki-Jiki, then it untaps, and then it just infinitely untaps and has a lot of infinite haste, whatever. Then you can just swing in for lethal. But I play this other card called Hive Mind. And so I like this idea of Hive Mind being in the deck because maybe your opponents could benefit from it, and then you can benefit from the spells that they play. But then, of course, there is the option to force your opponents to lose the game through instant cards in the Pact cycle. So Pact of Negation's in here, obviously because it's blue, but you have your red, white, and green spells that once you play them, if you have Hive Mind in play, which says that whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player copies that spell. Each of those players may choose new targets for his or her copy. So if you play a Pact of the Titan and Hive Mind is out, everyone gets a 4/4 red giant creature. But then at the beginning of their next upkeep, because it's played, if you don't pay 4 colors and a red, then you lose the game. Basically, this, I guess you could say, this is duplication tribal, whatever it is you want to use. But you're playing these cards that are 0 colorless, so it's easy to put out. And then if an opponent doesn't have the requisite mana because it's not in their color identity of their commander, then they'll lose the game because they can't pay the 4 colors and a red, or the 3 colors and 2 blue, or their 2 or white colors and 2 white for white. And then the green version is Summoner's Pact, right? So if they can't pay that mana during their upkeep, then they lose the game, which is really cool, I think. There's some other fun stuff in here with regards to that. So, I mean, there's some interaction. I'll talk about it when I look at each of the individual cards. Of course, you have our usual mana rocks that we would play, some of the signets. I don't like to use some of the more powerful mana rocks in here because it's not really intended to be fast. It turns out this deck actually does a really good job of getting mana out fast. But how do you get to some of these win cons a little bit earlier? Sometimes you need to search out the right enchantments, to be able to play those creatures. So Defense of the Heart is another great card. Mirari's Wake for your Your lands doubling up on missions is also great. And then there's this really cool card I like called Struggle for Project Purity. You know, you're still benefiting from draw from this. I think this card's a great card, probably a hidden treasure. But how do you find those types of enchantments? You have Academy Rector. Yep, it's a pretty expensive card. It's a reserveless card, but this is the type of card that I think you would need if you want to try to win a little bit quicker. I played 34 lands in this deck. I think it's necessary. I've put in basically all the bounce lands like Is It Boiler Works, etc. The nice thing about the bounce lands is, let's say you had a land in hand, after you already bounced the land, your Kynaios and Tiro, when it triggers at your end step, you get to draw a card, and then you get to put that land basically that you bounced back into play, and then that's that. Of course, your typical package of triumphs, some utility lands, for sure, and then then you have the obligatory Maze of Ith that you would need to have to be able to stop creatures from attacking you. Now, the nice thing about Kynaios and Tiro Meletis is it has a huge toughness, so there's a very low likelihood anyone's going to attack into that commander anyway. Now, they probably would get away with it if they're creatures with Death Touch. Okay, I think I'm done talking about the Moxville deck list. Let's actually transition back to talking about the cards themselves. Hats 300. Have I seen Power Drain? Sorry, I didn't see your note there. Drain Power. Yes, I do. I do remember that card. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was an early card. It's a Drain Power. That's the one where I think it taps out opponents' lands and that the stuff empties into your mana pool, I think. Yeah, it helps enforce the packs. Yeah, no, I haven't thought about that. Maybe I'll include that in the deck. Okay, so yeah, Kynaios and Tiro. I didn't quite organize this in terms of lands, creatures. I mean, it is organized, but I wanted to do it in a way where I could talk through the reason why I did this because of certain themes. So as I mentioned before, you're looking at you're looking at copying people's creatures. You're looking at utility stuff, and if you can't quite copy your opponent's creatures, you want to copy your own stuff and then benefit from all those those creatures that can do that. Group hug with kind of, hey, whatever it is you put out there, I'm just going to copy it. So Kynaios and Tiro Meletis, we already talked about the card itself. Duplicant. So Duplicant's cool. So if your opponents pump out a really huge creature, you can remove it and then just basically have its power and toughness equal to whatever it exiled, which is really cool. So this is interaction, but also copy, but also removal, right? C double. I think this is a great card. So when March of the Machines, I think that's the set that this came out in. When I saw this card and I pulled it, I was like, okay, this is awesome. This needs to be in the Kynaios deck. Choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, you may choose both. I can copy target spell, or I could create a token that's a copy of target creature. So very likely Kynaios is probably out and no one's really messed with it because they want to either draw or put lands from their hand into play. Yeah, I honestly very rarely see people want to remove Kynaios and Tiro Meletis. So what'll have happen is I'll have the requisite mana to be able to pay for the spell and then choose both because I have a creature, I have my commander in play. Oh, I'm sorry, no. I forgot. It's not because your commander's in play that you get to choose both. It's if an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, you may choose both. So maybe you don't get both as much as I thought you would, but it's still a great card to have, and you can choose one or the other. Phyrexian Metamorph is pretty solid, pretty standard copy spell. So your artifacts or any artifact or any creature on the battlefield can be copied. Mirage Mirror, great card when you need it. So let's say someone plays an Omniscience, you can just pay 2 to have Mirage Mirror be a copy of Omniscience until end of turn, and then you can play your entire hand. Clever Impersonator, great card to play because you could have it enter as a copy of any permanent on the battlefield. So it's not just a creature. Vizier of Many Faces, really cool, because if Vizier dies, you can embalm it, so basically play it from the graveyard, except exiling it, and then create a token that is, I think, a 4/4 zombie. Yeah. So let's say this dies, it's in the graveyard, another really cool creature comes out, you could just copy it. Stun double, flash speed, 4-drop, old school Vesuvian Doppelganger. So when I was a kid, I loved looking at this card, and I loved the art on it. I thought it was amazing. And I saw this at a store. I forget where I was at the time. It might have been Washington, or it might have been somewhere else. And I remember the guy that was selling this at the store, the owner or whatever, he was kind of a dick. But no matter. I decided I wanted to get this card because I really loved the card as a kid, and just so happens that I was building this copy deck, and I wanted it to include any number of copy effects, and this hit the mark immediately. Yeah, Vesuvian Doppelganger, man, it is so nostalgic. I really like the card. And the other cool thing about the card is it just doesn't enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. You can also during your upkeep, you can take on the characteristics of a different creature in play instead. So if another creature comes in and you like that creature, you can just make sure you change the Vesuvian Doppelganger to that creature that just came out. But you can only trigger that during the upkeep. Dax Duplicate's pretty cool. Copies a creature, and then it has the ability that it gains haste and dethrone. So that's awesome. Mythos of Aluna. So again, this is in the colors of the deck itself. So I'm copying something, but if I also spend a red and a green, it's a copy of target permanent, right? But if it's a creature, when this permanent enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to one target creature you don't control. So you want to copy something that's pretty massive, and then get rid of a pesky creature and just have it fight, and then that's not necessarily game over, but it's great to do. Timeless Witness is awesome. I actually try to put as many Timeless Witnesses as I can into any green X deck, because it's like your version of Timeless or Eternal Witness, but you can eternalize, so it's kind of like Embalm. Exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So yeah, I think it's basically like Embalm, just a different word, because I think they had to change it for the modern Horizon set. I like that card. I think it's great. So the other thing about Group Hug is, maybe you have interaction that can deal with creatures, but you could kind of sort of give them some stuff, right? Like lands, and that's probably fine, because like you're probably way ahead of them on lands. So if you get them some extra lands, it's kind of fun, and it's in theme with this Group Hug aspect of it. So you do settle the wreckage, exile all attacking creatures a player controls, and that player can put into play any number of basic lands equal to the number of attacking creatures that they had exiled. They come and play tapped, and that's that. Now, the interesting thing about commanders, over the years, people have gained access to a lot of non-basic lands that are in the color pairings or that fit the appropriate color identity of the commander. So there might be a lower likelihood that those people that are, if they're not playing monocolor decks, they have requisite dual type land cards. It doesn't have to be actual dual lands. Where there, a lot of them are in the deck and they have less basic lands than they have those number of attacking creatures that were exiled. Winds of Abandon is kind of the same thing, except it's a sorcery speed, and when you overload, it costs an additional 2 more than your Settle the Wreckage. You can exile just 1 creature that you don't control, but if you overload it for basically triple the mana cost of this, you can exile all creatures that you don't control, right? Because overload allows you to cast a spell and replace the word each. I'm sorry, target with each. Tibalt's Trickery also has the flavor of Group Hug. Apparently, eternalized copies all. Wait, let me see what you mean by that. Exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie human shaman with no mana cost. Okay, so it's just creating the copy of itself, though, right? So Tibalt's Trickery, sort of Group Hug-ish, sure. Counter magic in the deck. It's red. It's cool. Why not? I don't mind. Counter target spell. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles the cards from the top of their library until they exile an online card with a different name. They may cast that card without paying its mana costs. They put the exile cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. Yeah. So counter something. Give them the opportunity to play something else. You want to save this to counter the cards that you don't want to have come into play, and then it just gets replaced by something else. Arcane Denial, classic Group Huggish type counter magic. So I remember when I played random kitchen table magic and I loved Arcane Denial. But it wasn't a counter spell. You get to draw an additional card because if it's just 2-player magic, you draw basically an extra card during your next upkeep, and then you draw a card. So it seems like you're drawing 2 cards, which you are, but then your opponent gets to draw 2 cards when that happens. That's the drawback, but it's fun. Yeah, chaos effects of Tibalt's Trickery, for sure. The deck here isn't really going for the chaos. It's just going for, I guess, it's going for value. But sometimes if there's cards that the opponents put out that would make it, or like that you think is awesome and that you can use it, you just copy it, right? There's the janky combos in this deck. Like you have your copy effects, like I said, Splinter Twin, Kiki Jiki, whatever. Then you have random win cons that just happen, and that's kind of the fun of the deck. Is like, so be it. In Group Hug, everyone is gonna get far in advance of their mana and then their creature board state and other things. So why not capitalize from what your commander does, but also, you're trying to outdraw your opponent, you're trying to outpace your opponent, etc. Narcissus Reversal, it's not counter magic, it bounces spells. So if you don't bounce your opponent's spells, which is okay, you can bounce your Approach of the Second Sun. So this is a classic combo between Narcissus Reversal and Approach. You're drawing a lot of cards. Your Kynaios and Tiro allows you to draw cards. If you play Narcissus Reversal on your Approach of the Second Sun, you basically just end up winning the game on the next turn. You're able to cast Approach of the Second Sun. So this is a win con that's in the deck. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach, you win the game. So what happens is you cast it. So when you play this, it'll recognize that you've cast it already once. But if you play Narset to bounce back to your hand, you don't have to put it into your library 7th from the top. You don't have to do that. You just play it on your next turn. But because you're drawing a lot of cards anyway, you're very likely to be able to pull this maybe 1, 2, or 3 turns after you've already played it, and then you can win the game on that turn. We're going to talk a little bit about interaction. So I like Dismantling Blow because, I mean, it's a cheap card, one to begin with. But you can pay an additional 3 to kick it and then draw 2 cards after destroying an enchantment or artifact. Aura Shards, it's a game changer. I forgot to say what kind of deck this is. Is it a bracket 3 deck, bracket 4? Let me just very quickly look at what it said. Okay. So obviously, because there is at least one game changer in the deck, it's immediately bracket 3. However, there are 4 game changers in the deck, so that makes it bracket 4, at least objectively. But it really doesn't play like a bracket 4. It's not intended. It's like a really low bracket 4. I would say it's more like a high 3. I play a lot of bracket 3, bracket 4 decks because I have a lot of these cards, and because it's in my collection, I want to play them. I don't want to put them in binders. I just want to play them, right? Aura Shards, great card. It wrecks house. Mystic Confluence, counter magic, kind of high CMC, no big deal. You have a lot of lands. You have a lot of opportunity to do that, or to pay out the casting cost for each of the spells. Corrosion Grip was just classic artifact and enchantment removal at split second speed. Path to Exile, it's kind of like your version of Settled Wreckage or Winds of Abandon. Except you just do it the one time and it's an instant speed. Kenrith's Transformation, pretty cool card. So this still falls in the line of interaction, but your opponents will still benefit from it, right? So Arcane Denial, Path to Exile, Winds of Abandon, the opponents will still get something out of the interaction, even Tibalt's Trickery, right? So again, Group Hug it's Group Hug, but F you. Mirari's Wake, why not just tap for more mana and then also give your creatures bonuses. You don't really need this for the Lord effect on it. Honestly, this deck probably doesn't need Mirari's Wake, but I had an open slot and I had the original in foil, so I said, hell yeah, why not? It's from Judgment. Whenever land taps for mana, whenever you tap a land for mana, you get double the mana. Of course, Academy Rector has to be played. I mean, this powers out very quickly. After she dies, you can exile her and then search your library for any enchantment put directly in play. So, as I mentioned, whenever you're looking at the Moxfield deck list, I'm usually looking for Omniscience, right, which you can play all non-land cards from your hand without paying the mana cost, or I'm looking for Hive Mind, just so I can try to win with those pact cards. So Pact of Negation, Intervention Pact, right, your white version, then you have your green version. So as I started to build this deck, I didn't initially think of Hive Mind as a win con, but I really was looking for cards that could search for creature cards. So when I remember that Summoner's Pact exists, I said, okay, I want to see if there's a way to win with these cards, and it turns out in these colors, except there's no black, it made sense for me to throw in the Hive Mind because it's in theme. I'm still giving opponents stuff, but even if I can still force them to lose the game if they don't have the mana to pay for the upkeep costs on these packs. So Summoner's Pact for searching out creatures, Pact of Titan for creating goblins. As if you didn't have enough mana, you have Smothering Tithe, why not? That's one of the other game changers. Burgeoning is pretty awesome. Like, if it weren't for cards like Burgeoning, it might be a little bit slower, but I really like Burgeoning because there's a lot of tap lands in the deck, and that's by design. This deck isn't meant to overpower your opponents too quickly. So, but you can play Burgeoning to help you offset and then essentially counter the mana loss that you would otherwise have with tapped lands and bounce lands. Exploration for additional plays of lands per turn. Faber Elder, awesome card. Basically, your 3-drop Bloom Tender. You'll tap a minimum 4 each time you have this out in play, because on your 4th turn, you're very likely to get as much as 8 mana with Faber Elder. A little bit more into some of the ways that you can get the mana that you need. Skyshroud Claim, great card. If I have as many copies as I do of Skyshroud Claim, I'll put it in every green X deck that I have. Sometimes this isn't as good as Farseek or Rampant Growth. It just kind of depends on what you have. But I have a lot of mana early, so or early enough. I'm not going to say always early, but early enough so that I could play a Skyshroud Claim, and then I'll get even more lands. Obviously, you need your Soul Ring, Commander Sphere for your mana, and then you get to draw a card. A lot of people I think they've caught on to this idea that Chromatic Lantern sucks. Chromatic Lantern isn't in the deck, but I don't think Chromatic Lantern sucks. Instead, I have a Commander Sphere, which seems fairly pretty fair, and you get to draw a card, which is nice. Hitting 2 Triomes seems good. Yeah, off of like a Burgeoning or something, or Exploration, etc. In a lot of my decks that are like bracket 3 or bracket 4 or even high bracket 3, I play, Grim Monolith. I play. Oh yeah. Hitting 2 Triomes seems good off of Skyshroud. You're right. No, I love doing that, because Skyshroud Claim, as you know, when you're playing out, or when you get those 2 lands, that you may not even need it to tap for mana, right? So you just leave them you have them come into play. Now you might wonder if I'm playing, Amulet of Vigor. I don't really think I need that. It's fine. Like Burgeoning and all that, it kind of just allows me to play on my lands, and it could be slow, and no one's really wanting to attack me when I play Kynaios, right? So I don't have to play Amulet of Vigor in the deck. I could, I just don't. Zarya Signet, again, more of the signets that are in the color pairing, or the color identity of the commander. Yeah, just those. Vidalcan Ori is great. I think I used to play Leyline of Anticipation in the deck, but I had to put that in other blue decks, so it's fine. So Vidalcan Ori looks pretty harmless. Great card to play in a lot of decks, especially casual decks. Struggle for Project Purity. So I mentioned this when we were looking at the actual Moxfield deck list. And this thing is a freaking sleeper card. I love it. Let me just read it. As Struggle for Project Purity enters the battlefield, choose Brotherhood or Enclave. It's 3 colorless and a blue. If you choose Brotherhood at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. You draw a card for each card drawn this way. So if this thing is around, let's say it's not removed. Oh, but then I could clone the Amulet of Vigor. Interesting. Yeah. Struggle for Project Purity. Okay. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. You draw a card for each card drawn this way. So if you have 3 opponents, you draw 4 cards. Dr. Hutch, what's going on, bro? Thanks for stopping by. Whenever I'm playing blue, you usually try to have Leyline of Anticipation. Okay. Yeah, man. No, I love Vidalcan Ori. I love Leyline of Anticipation. I think they're both great cards. it's just really hard to decide sometimes where to put them in decks. Yeah. Oh, yep. No, you're right. It's great. It's great when you have Leyline out in your opening hand, for sure. Okay, the other part of Struggle for Project Purity is Enclave. Whenever a player attacks you with one or more creatures, that player gets twice that many rad counters. So I don't care about the Enclave ability. I only care about the Brotherhood ability. So Group Huggish, but again, I benefit more than you, which is the point, right, of the deck. Scroll Rack, pretty awesome card. Choose any number of cards in your hand and set those cards aside. Put an equal amount, a number of cards from the top of your library into your hand. Then put the cards set aside in this way on top of your library in any order. So I think that's a key thing there. I remember, and if you recall, Hutch, we were playing, and I think we were trying to figure out how to read this card, because I think there was an instance where it seemed like Scroll Rack wasn't supposed to play it the way I had it played. But we figured out I played it correctly. All those cards that you set aside, you can put it back in any order, and that's what actually the card says it does. Right? This is a relatively new card that I put in the deck for the Group Huggish effect. But I threw it in there because I love Final Fantasy. And unfortunately, so I think Hats 300, you mentioned that you like Tifa. I wanted the Tifa foil version of this card. And every time I play the goddamn game, whether it was the original Final Fantasy VII or the new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, etc., and I'm playing. I think it was Rebirth. Rebirth is the one where you actually get to Golden Saucer, and I think you have to get to the second time to be able to get your secret rendezvous. But Tifa, I was hoping I'd pull a Tifa in my collector box. I didn't. I pulled the one with Aerith, and it's fine. I mean, they're both awesome. They're both sexy, whatever. But everyone wants the Tifa card, right? You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. 3 CMC spell for 3 cards is awesome. And again, it's fine if your players, yeah, it's fine if you could do this. It's Group Hug with more benefits on your side than theirs. Sphinx's Revelation for more card draw. I think it's a great card. Yeah, you just bought a normal single. Yeah. I'm probably going to do the same at some point. I don't know. Just to get that Tifa card. Preordain, probably not necessary in the deck, but it's a one-drop cantrip-ish card. Okay, Master of Ceremonies. I'm just going to highlight this really quick because when I first pulled this in the Streets of New Capenna pack, I was like, man, this card is garbage. No, why would anyone want to play this? But it's actually pretty freaking awesome. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chose money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chose friends, you and that player each create a 1/1 citizen token. For each player who chose secrets, you and that player each draw a card. So this is better than your struggle for Project Purity because, well, first if everyone draws a card, then you just draw an extra card. Yeah, Brainstorm is great. I don't think Brainstorm's in this deck. Might not be a bad thing to throw that in, but I'm starting to lose out on all these random effects that give opponents bonuses too. Yeah, I mean, I think Brainstorm could easily replace Preordain. I guess that Scry 2 is probably what I was trying to get after. Anyway, Master of Ceremonies, awesome card. You can get tokens, you can get treasures, you can get cards, whatever it is that is needed the most. You're playing lots of lands, so it's not that you're playing the cards, it's that whenever lands enter the battlefield, you get to gain a life. I'm sorry, you get to draw a card, not gain a life. And you get an expiration effect on that. I think this is still a game changer. Consecrated Sphinx, amazing card. This is actually one of the cards that I recommended to the CFP at the time when they were asking about what game changers are out there. People forgot about Consecrated Sphinx. I said, hell yeah. Felidar Guardian, I mentioned this is part of the 2-card combo, Saheeli Rai. Pretty sweet combo. You basically have this ETB, Saheeli Rai's in play. It will flicker this thing. You get to copy the Felidar Guardian, and then you just do this particular motion, which means you're going infinite, and then you're probably going to win the game. And then again, along those same lines where you're copying stuff. And Hutch, this is kind of a call out to you if you're still watching, because I remember playing against you on those modern builds, right? You had your Restoration Angel Kiki Jiki combo when you did Court of Calling, so obviously that's awesome. Restoration Angel ETBs, flickers, Kiki Jiki comes into play, tap Kiki Jiki, create another Restoration Angel, and then basically flicker, tap, flicker, tap, and then you get your infinite Restoration Angels that are flying, which is great evasion to begin with, and then you just swing in for lethal. And then the same types of cards again. Yep. And Hutch, this is a call out to you, because I loved how you played the deck. It was awesome. And then, but of course at the time, Splinter Twin was banned. You couldn't play Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin anymore. So why not play Court of Calling, Kiki Jiki, Resto Angel combo, Thragtus, throw that in just to get your additional, 5 life when it ETBs. It's awesome. And like I said, your Splinter Twin to work out with each of these cards that tap and untap. Yep, Eternal Witness, yeah. I don't know if you saw, but I didn't include an Eternal Witness in the deck. I put in a Timeless Witness, which is the 4-drop version of Eternal Witness. And Intruder Alarm, man, this is like, I remember playing Intruder Alarm back in the Stronghold days, and we were playing some really bullshit cards. Back in the day, where it was like Intruder Alarm, and then you played fucking Prodigal Sorcerer, and you're just tapping to deal, ping damage, and then creatures come into play. It started to get out of hand. So I think you'd play like, Birds of Paradise, fucking Shrieking Drake, and Prodigal Sorcerer, and then just fucking ping your opponents to death. I mean, that was the way to go back then. Kitchen Table. I also remember playing this other deck which involved Enduring Renewal, and I think it was Ashnod's Altar or something. I don't know, some really bad crazy shenanigans back in the day. So Intruder Alarm, kind of like your tap on tap shenanigans. Tooth and Nail to search out the creatures that you need to win the game. Usually you want to try to power out using 9 mana after you entwine. And I basically put this on a lot of my decks back in the early days of Commander, because it was just your way of getting out the creatures very quickly. I'm sorry, not very quickly, but getting out the 2-card combo of creatures that you needed to win the game. Survival of the Fittest, one of the other game changers, pretty awesome card. Sometimes there's some cards in your hand, like copy creature spells, that you don't really have a use for anymore because there's not that many creatures on the battlefield that are desirable. So you just search out your win cons. Same thing with Nature's Rhythm, kind of the same deal. Yeah, hit Kiki and any one of the others. Yeah, basically, I used to have this thing, actually. Where I was playing, when I was originally designing all of my Commander decks, I used to think to myself, each of these Commander decks are commanded by, at the time it used to be called the General, right? The EDH General. And I used to think like, oh, if I have all these armies, right, these decks, these decks of mine that were Commander decks, if they each had their own individual general, and I don't replicate that card in any other deck, then I've really achieved like the dream of like a true commander player. because you wouldn't want to have your general be a private in someone else's army, if that makes any sense. Now, it actually might work if you're thinking a Navy admiral could fall under an army general as a private. I know Hutch will get a kick out of that, because be Navy and go Army, right? Anyway, where was I going with that? Yeah, you're searching for those creature cards, get the right win cons, get that going. Alademi's Call, kind of the same deal, and then again back to Hutch. Your Card of Calling goes in this deck. Great card. Defense of the Heart. So there's another card that's really great in the deck. I think it's called Forbidden Orchard. It's a land. So I remember back in the days of Kamigawa, and I was playing Defense of the Heart for Kitchen Table. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. Play Forbidden Orchard. Basically give your one opponent more creatures than you have. So if they have 3 or more creatures, this thing will trigger, and then you get to search for those same 2 creature cards that you want to win the game with. So if you didn't have Tooth and Nail, this is just an additional way to get out those creatures. So you're probably wondering, like, oh, well, is this deck all about combos? Not necessarily. You could win by copying other people's creatures that can be just as devastating or worse. Because you can't get all these combos possibly all within the same 4-color deck. You could benefit off of the creatures that your opponent's playing. Oath of Druids Forbidden Orchard. Yes. I remember playing Oath of Druid also during that time frame. And you would play out oh yeah. Shit. We would play Serra Avatar. Oath of Druids, Serra Avatar. That was the way to win. Now, basically, you'd control the board with any number of different effects, Swords to Plowshares, whatever. I mean, this is like Type 1.5 back in the day. You'd play Oath of Druids, give them creatures, flip until you get your Serra Avatar. Now, if you wanted to retain some of those cards, you'd actually put in a card called Gaia's Blessing. Because if that was milled off the top of your library, then when it goes to the graveyard, you actually get to shuffle all of your graveyard into your deck, and then you basically you're still repeating until you get your Serra Avatar, and then you have it come into play. Blight, is that Blightsteel Colossus? Is that what you're mentioning? Yeah, I've seen Oath of Druids Forbidden Orchard decks before too. Yeah, I forget it. The Oath of Druids actually forces you to put the card, if it hits the graveyard, and then you put it into play. Or if it's when you reveal the card, you put it directly into play. I forget which one. But if it was put into the graveyard first or whatever, then the Blight still couldn't come into play, right? So along the same lines of copying things, we have Vesuva. So if there's a really cool land that's out, let's say it's a City of Brass, or even if it's a Triome, whatever, you could just copy it. Command Tower, obviously, for the good stuff, or the clear land choice of any commander deck. I even play Command Tower in monocolor decks. It's kind of lame, it's kind of dumb, but I want to keep in theme of the commander, right? Which is fine. You can whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy in building your decks, just do it, right? Oh, so it goes reveal top of library to battle. Okay, cool. So your Blightsteel Colossus could come into play. Totally cool. I mean, I think I play Oath of Druids in maybe one deck. I don't remember. Yeah, just don't play it in Karn. Yeah, don't play your Command Tower in Karn. Yep, that is 100% correct. Okay, Exotic Orchard, great. 4-color deck. Your opponents are bound to play a color that's in yours, except for black, obviously. Forbidden Orchard, we just talked about that, giving your opponents creatures, so still in the theme of group hug, but then it benefits you for when you play Defense of the Heart. Awesome. Maze of Ith. I mentioned when we were looking at the deck list that Maze of Ith is just a nice bonus. You don't have to have it, but it's a nice bonus because no one's really going to attack into a 2/8 creature, right? But also, I play a 34 land or 34 count number of lands in this deck. And usually when I do that, it's because of a card like Maze of Ith, right? I don't really get an amount of mana or any amount of mana out of it. And I don't run Urborg, and I don't run Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, whatever, right? So I have to play at least one more land is kind of the point. Reliquary Tower for when you play Consecrated Sphinx and you need to keep all the cards in your hand. There's the Triomes, obviously, that go in the deck. I think there's more Triomes that would actually go in the deck, but I can only fit 4 of the cool full art lands in here. Jetmir's Garden, Rogrin Triome, Ketria Triome, and then the balanced lands. So I apologize ahead of time that my Azorius Chancery isn't the extended art for these lands. So I'm basically missing that, which is fine. I'm gonna make sure I get one eventually. But the balanced lands are really awesome. As I mentioned previously, right? So you play a balanced land, you return a card to your land card to your hand. If Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis is in play, then the land card that's in your hand after it triggers at your end step, you get to draw a card, then you get to play a land. So the land that you just bounced just goes back into play. I mean, I love the balanced lands in this deck. All the other balanced lands, Growth Earth, Is It Boiler Works, Selesnya Sanctuary, Simic Grove Chamber, Boros Garrison. And by the way, I usually, like on a lot of the reprint sets, like this with the double masters, I hate the symbol. But I love the art. It's fine. It's cool. Then, of course, you have your slew of Shocklands, Hollowed Fountain, Stomping Ground, Sacred Foundry, Temple Garden, Steam Vents, Breeding Pool. So if you counted those Shocklands in any 4-color deck, you will always have 6. And then, very likely, if you count it right, you're going to get your 6 fetch lands as well. Right? So your Wooded Foothills, Flooded Strand, Windswept Heath, Misty Rainforest, Arid Mesa, and Scalding Tarn. Now, of course, in the current rules of Commander, you could actually have more fetch lands if you wanted, not just the 6. Because as long as it's fetching for one of those specific lands with those basic land types, then you can have as many fetch lands as your deck can allow, as long as it can fetch for that specific land that you need. And then last but not least, because you have to play the dual lands, why not? Right, Volcanic Island, Plateau, Tropical Island, Savannah, Tundra, and then Taiga. Okay, so that is the 100 card list in detail, visually shown. I hope you all enjoyed that because I did. I like Kynaios and Tiro Meletis as a 4-color deck. I think I do another 4-color deck with these same colors using the Stranger Things kids. Green white, I think it's is it Mike? Yeah, Mike. And then the blue red for Lucas, so I play that. But it's kind of a Rube Goldberg kind of deck because there's a lot of tap and untap shenanigans. No intruder alarm, but it plays a lot of artifact stuff, artifact tap untap shenanigans. And then it runs Zerda the Dawnwaker. So if I put together a stream for that, I'll definitely show you all how that all works out. And you get a chance to see all of that. Okay, cool. So now we're moving on to the stream where I guess I can decide to stick around and show you how I play test, or I could just end the stream. I think maybe I'll go ahead and do a play test here just for the sake of getting it going, and then try to spend the last 20-30 minutes before I bed down doing that. So how do I do the playtesting? Let me do the transition here, and then you might think, oh, this is kind of lame, it's boring, whatever. I'm gonna not make it boring by playing some music. So if you're just, you know, listening in on all that and watching, you always have that option. All right, here we go. And we are going to the Moxfield playtesting screen. And I'm a little bit, I don't know, cautious. I'm not sure that's the right word, but if I turn on the music, the stream might slow down a bit. Maybe I'll just, let's see, what should I play? A lot of really cool music. I'm gonna go with this. Okay, while I'm typing that out, I'll explain what I'm trying to do when I playtest. So let me close out of the screen because we already talked about the deck itself. So what do I do on my playtesting? Essentially what happens is I have a wide enough screen to display 4 different decks on my screen. And when I do this, the display actually does a pretty good job of showing pretty good battlefields. So what I have here is I have Kynaios and Tiro Meletis. We are gonna have that deck play against another deck, so we could just choose whatever. I'll say Damia because it's pretty old school. And then I want to play something else. Let's go with, let's try Haunted one. And, you know, because Hutch mentioned it, we'll play Karn Silver Golem, which does not have a command tower. I'm going to make sure it doesn't, because I'm going to give it so much shit. Let's see. Does my Karn Silver Golem have a command tower? It does not. It does not. and that's for good reason. Okay. So yeah, this is how I play out. This is how I play out my playtesting. And you know, really, what's the point of this? Like, if you can't go to the LGS, you don't have time, or maybe you're at home, you just don't feel like driving to the LGS. Like, this is one way to just practice. Practice your different decks. And what I end up doing with these practice sessions is I take tally of the win rates of the deck, so I maintain a spreadsheet to indicate essentially how many times they could win against other either equally powered decks or higher powered decks, whatever. And I could actually gauge fairly certainly how to qualify them in terms of if they're bracket 3, bracket 4, or lower, right? I very rarely play CDH, but I'm trying to get into it because a friend of mine that I met up with recently got me to catch on to it, so I'm probably going to try to play that more. Anyway, enough talking. Let's see how this goes. We'll keep the 7 here. I think that's fine. Okay, I think this is also fine for Damia. We have a Scorched Ruins and a Tomb of the Spirit Dragon with a Mana Vault. You know, that's okay. I'm probably going to draw into a land eventually. But let's go ahead and get that going. And what's the benefit of playing like this? I mean, I think there's quite a bit of benefit. If you're a married man, and your wife is all like, how come you're always going out? You know, you should spend more time with the kids. Like, I can get up off the seat and go hang out with a fam, you know, at a moment's notice if I wanted to. I could take a quick break, whatever, you know. I'm gonna play if I can, and this will allow me to do it from home. And also, I don't have to play with randos that are on the internet just to get a rise, because sometimes you want to establish certain play patterns, but in a sense you're cheating against yourself. It's fine. I mean, it's also just one way to pass the time. I don't know, what do y'all think? I know some of my friends also who have played Magic. They do a variation of playtesting their own decks against themselves, which, you know, that's nothing to laugh at. It's just one way to have fun. You know, why not? How do you all play test your decks? I mean, I could play test a deck using Cockatrice, but you know, I've felt actually it's interesting. Previously, Cockatrice can be kind of a pain in the ass, and some of the people on Cockatrice are just kind of a-holes. So, you know, play with a-holes, or, you know, God forbid I say this on stream, play with yourself. Right? Okay, so there's some cool things about to happen. So we have blue, white, red, green. And you know what, it's okay. We'll just shock that in. Play Kynaios and Tiro of Meletis. Everyone gets to either put a land into play, draw a card. I draw a card immediately, and when it triggers, I could play a land. I'm probably going to play the Triumph, because it's the natural choice. Damia, we're probably going to draw a card, because I only have one land card. Haunted one, yep, play another card, or play a land card, I don't draw. And I think for Karn, it's going to have to be a draw. Yeah. So it's not that I missed the land drop, it's just I chose not to play Scorched Ruins because I'd have to sacrifice a land. Now what I do have is a Crucible of Worlds, which is great. Alright, let's move on. And also we didn't want to waste a landfall trigger from Lotus Cobra, so there's that. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we need to gain a life from Kynaios coming in. Yeah, so as I mentioned, Kynaios can actually get pretty ramped up pretty fast. It doesn't have to be fast, but it can get fast. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can do that. 2, 3, 4, 5. What is that one card? Hedge Maze? Or no, Underground Mortuary. Yep. I like Underground Mortuary. It's a cool card, especially in a Haunted 1 deck. Surveil 1. Land. No land. The hell. You know, I'll just play out this Crucible of Worlds. It's fine. Discard. Okay. Then we're just gonna play the Scorched Ruins, sacrifice to itself. I don't have to sacrifice the other land. That way I don't have to discard a artifact card. Okay. Yeah, I pretty much never attack with Kynaios. Just leave it as one of those you know, blockers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's okay. What should I do with this? 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Smuggler Surprise. I really like this card. When it matters, it really matters. Okay, finally a land. Lame. Okay, now a crap ton of mana. And I think there's really no opportunity to destroy the Mirari's Wake. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't think we actually created a creature from that last time. Played this land. 2, 3 for Fabro. 2, 4 for Struggle for Project Purity. Yeah, and this is going to choose Brotherhood. So the first mode. 2, 4, 6, 7. Oh, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, this is cool. So we'll play out Approach of the Second Sun. Let's see, there's, oh, I forgot to do life gain. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to play 2, 4, 6, 7 for Approach of the Second Sun. Let that resolve. Yep, so gain 7 life. And then put it 7th from the top. Okay, so this is where the fun part happens. Approach the Second Sun is 7th from the top, but you're steadily drawing into it. I'm gonna play Sphinx's Revelation at some point, where I draw cards, and then I get to play Approach the Second Sun again. So do this now, trigger that, draw here, and draw land here. Yep, that's cool. Cool. I think if there's no interaction with the Kynaios and Tiro deck on the next turn, I'm probably gonna win. Okay, this might actually be bad for everyone because there's a Peregrine Drake and then a Deadeye Navigator. So my buddy Hutch, if he's still watching, he's gonna be like, "That's the same goddamn combo, Greg, as at least one of the other decks that you play." Because I think I did a deck tech on Derevi. Well, it's not the same combo because it turns out I'm not using Palancon, I'm using Peregrine Drake. But it's still pretty old school, you know, from the ones that we're very familiar with. So we float a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why not? Because there's 5 lands. And I'll just float a blue and whatever. Untap that. Let's see if there's any way to deal with it. Okay, so now I have infinite colored mana. Any which way I want. Infinite colored mana, and then infinite life gain because of the Essence Warden. Let's just go to like 75, whatever. Infinite life gain, play a infinite life gain, infinite colored mana, play a Tightspot Tyrant, play a spell, bounce something, play another spell, bounce something else, play Sapperling Symbiosis, because why not? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Sapperlings. Let's see, so we bounced 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 2. Bounce this, why not? Play Damia. So I get to draw a bunch of cards next turn. And I guess we could just attack. Just for the hell of it. And then what does this do? No creature cards in graveyards, but I think I get to exile a card anyway. Oh, it's just a creature card. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so if nothing happens, Damia is probably going to win next turn. There's no interaction against the Damia deck, then she's pretty much going to win that turn. And of course there's a counterspell in my hand, so I could hold that up for the best version. Or to counter the best card that would be played. Okay, I think naturally it's going to come down to playing a power word kill on Damia. And you know what? I want Damia to stick around, so I'm just going to counter that. I mean, I have a million life, it's no big deal, but I want to draw cards. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there anything here that matters? I may put up to 2 creature cards from my hand onto the battlefield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not enough to do the kicker on that. Which is okay. But maybe I'll just play a creature. I think, yeah, life off of that. Alright, now. I think what we want to do is Clock of Omens. Three, 6. Man, Clock of Omens is such a great card. Oh no. Okay, what to do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we know 2 cards. So there's like 4 cards out there. It's probably fine. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mana for this. 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So any way I can deal with the craziness that's about to happen. Pact of Negation on something. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I didn't have to do the counterspell. I could have saved that and just had my Deadeye Navigator Soulbond with Damia. Okay, well, there was no magic to be countered otherwise anyway. Alright. And we'll continue the BS that is infinite mana enabled by Peregrine Drake and Deadeye Navigator. And I think this is... Oh, this is forbid. Okay. Okay, sure, why not? I think this is game. So we float a black off of the land drop, Bloodghast, sack that to Diabolic Intent. And I think what we have is an infinite X spell, Torment of Hellfire, pretty classic. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna generate infinite black, infinite blue, infinite green, whatever, and then choose to play Torment of Hellfire. There's gonna be an attempt to play Pact of Negation, but there is a forbid available. And that does it. That does it. Okay. That is the game. That is the game. We did some playtesting. I hope you found that somewhat interesting. That's how I playtest. How do you playtest? Very cool. Unfortunately, Kynaios and Tiro Meletis could not perform. I mean, it is a, I would say, a... By design, it's a bracket 4, but it doesn't play like a bracket 4. It plays more like a high 3, if anything else. It just didn't quite get there. There's some interaction, but not really enough. Powers out with a lot of lands, a lot of mana, and draw. Just didn't quite get there today. Damia took it because of the infinite mana that Deadeye Navigator and Peregrine Drake had given me. So there's that. Okay. We're gonna finish with the playtesting. Just a reminder, as you're navigating through some of my commander decks via the Moxfield tab on my link tree, you can see any number of decks that I play. I have all 32, the 32 deck, the 32 colors combinations possible of decks, and then I have repeat colors as well. How many total decks? 69 decks it shows. So if you're interested in any of that and you like the Kynaios and Tiro deck, that's really cool. You could I could always use an extra follower or an extra like. What did you all think of that? Let me know in the comments. Okay, and I want to go back to the main screen just to wrap up. Yeah, Hats 300. Dang, you stuck around all the way. Thanks for that. And I didn't see some of the other comments that you both had earlier. Yeah, running 4 playtests, that is. So I think really what it comes down to is how much screen area that you have. So my monitor on my home desktop, well, it's a Mac. It allows me to play four screens, and it gives me just enough space to show 4 battlefields pretty well. So if you have a small monitor, you may not be able to benefit out of that. But if you have multiple monitors, you can probably do 2 per and then have at it. It's up to you. Yeah, you have 2 screens, 100%. Try it out, give it a shot. If you're bored, don't have time to go to the game shop, have at it and have fun with it. Okay, cool. So we finished the playtesting. We showed the cards for the Kynaios deck, which I thought y'all would get a kick out of. And then we showed the altar that was done by Michiko, which is the Final Fantasy VII, Red 13, and Cait Sith altar on Kynaios and Tiro Meletis. Which I thought was really cool. This is going to go out to the client. Tomorrow we're going to get him a tracking number momentarily, ship that out to him, and I'm sure he'll enjoy that. And then if you also missed it, again, Sublime MTG Alters, this is where you can find us. We have a huge following on Facebook. If you like what we do, also feel free to follow us and like our page and all the different socials. This was the other altar that was done by my sister-in-law Kumiko with Jaya Ballard. So if you like anime, you like highly detailed works, you like thinly painted altars on cards, seek us out, request a commission, wait for March because that's when we open back up. And that's that. Oh yeah, and can't forget about the QR code. Check that out. Scan it, let us know what you think. Very cool. And with that, I think it's okay to close out. I hope everyone enjoyed the stream, because I did. I always want to do something interesting and something cool to get there. So it is close to midnight over here in Mountain Standard Time. And I'll go in to shut up because it's time to go to sleep, and we'll let the music play on my way out. Thanks everyone for coming and watching.